What's up, gamers, and today we're going to be talking about the Zenless Zone 0 tier list, where I think units should go, what prydwen maybe has wrong, what prydwen has right, where I think both Caesar King are going to land, and Miss Burnice as well. I do think it's pretty important to speculate where you think a character could land for whatever reasons on a tier list, to give people more of a reason to pull or not to pull for a character. So I'll be giving you my rating for both of those as well, and going over the reasons why I think those reasons are true and relevant, okay? And I want to start off with just an overall change that I would like to see here. I think that we need one more tier added here. I think we do need a tier 3 slot landed in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put tier 3 here. We're going to go ahead and just put our little markers right here, because I do think there is reason being that a character should be in tier 3, because I don't feel like Anton and Soldier are this close together per se. And Nekomata, if she were to even be moved down in this scenario, I don't think she'd be on the level of this, right? So what we're going to be doing is going over this today. Now, obviously, all of our 4 stars here are rated off at M0. I'm going to be doing my ratings off of M6 because I think we're getting into that portion of the game where M6 is becoming more prevalent for people's accounts, especially the more banners that come out on the 4 stars that we're not getting added to the game. Like, if we're not getting very many added 4 stars to the game, then that would mean that we are getting more duplicates of the old 4 stars, correct? So let's go ahead and start with our pure DPS category first, Miss Julian and Miss Ellen Joe. Now, for this, I think this is absolutely true. I think both of these still reign supreme to this day. I really don't think there is much change here in terms of what these characters are able to do. Like, I think that these characters are, like, top of the tier, and I do think there is a pretty clear gap. Actually, I kind of disagree with this. I think that Soldier 11 probably moves up here. I think Soldier 11 is pretty cracked. I do think she's probably on the level of what Grace is to the Anomaly class. So I would actually move Soldier 11 up. There is a little bit of timing involved with her, but I feel like I feel like she breaks enemy shields really fast too, and she just does a fuck ton of damage on top of it. As long as the timing's not involved there, then I think for sure that Soldier 11 would get moved up. And I would keep Nekomata right here. Like, I think Nekomata is a little bit worse than Soldier 11 is. And the reason why I think Nekomata is really not as good is because, first of all, we have Jane Doe on the team now. Physical DPS is kind of taken care of now with this anomaly-based DPS. But Nekomata's attack style, or just like play style in general, it feels like it looks really cool, but it just feels kind of lackluster. Like, it feels like it's not putting out as much damage as it should be putting out. I'm curious to see why they think about moving her down. We can actually look at the changelog real quick and see why they have or want to move her down a little bit here. So let's look at this. Nekomata hasn't performed to the level we've expected when compared to Soldier 11. We're not making any changes, but we're keeping eyes on her performance. Yeah, I think so. Like, I think with the release of Jane Doe, this probably would be on a different level. Now, I'm not saying to move Nekomata down right now, because if I would be moving Soldier 11 up to tier 0.5 here, I think that she would stay tier 1. I think she's a fine tier 1 choice here. I just think Soldier 11 is better than what prydwen's currently giving her credit for anyways right now. And as far as this tier 2 slot right here, I think both of these characters here move down. I think Anton is super good. Build guide on him will be out in the near future. I just think Anton is a decently solid, like, shock type of DPS right now. He does have his issues. He's a very bursty type of DPS, and that's the same way I feel about these two, right? I feel like these two as well are very burst type DPS, and what I mean by burst type DPS, like, you're only having these characters out on the field for just a couple of seconds and then swapping back to your breaker or your sub DPS or whoever else is on the team, right? These are coming in right after you're giving them a buff, doing like their main attack. Like Anton, for example, comes in and then reproc shock and stuff like that. And then Corin as well, she comes in, I think that's her name, right? Oh, surely it is, right? I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But the point I'm trying to make here is she comes in and goes, oh, saw, boom, and then saw, boom, and then you swap out to your other character, right? It's not someone like a Soldier 11 where you break the enemy shield. They are on the enemy's ass the whole time. You break the enemy shield here, you come out with them for a couple of seconds, and then you swap off to your sub DPS to put something else on the enemy, because these characters' damages drop off so much when not in burst state that it just doesn't make sense to keep using them after they've kind of used that big bursty damage, right? Like, you're really using Anton for his ultimate move and his chain attack, and then obviously his reproc reproc of his shock or whatever, but the biggest amount of damage is coming from his ultimate move. So really what you're doing with Anton is you have a really good Grace on your team, you're pulling him into the field after you've shocked the enemy and used her skill on the enemy, right, to increase the amount of shock damage that the enemy is taking. Then he comes in, you proc the ult off with him because it's going to do higher damage, and then you swap off with him, right? Or maybe you get one little burst in there every once in a while whenever you do swaps in, right? But I do feel like with his ability to reproc this shock here, it just makes him super beneficial, and whenever we get more shock Anomaly in the game, he's going to go up in value as well. I think you'll use him on the team too. I know a lot of people will probably say, no, you'll just throw him off the team, but I feel like the reprocking of the shock is super nice because you can kind of front load some of that Anomaly based damage. I see Anomaly like DOT and Honkai Star Rail, right? Like, you're having to rely on them getting that Anomaly meter all the way up and then proccing it and then doing it over again. He's kind of like a Kafka or a Katsuki Sampo in this situation to Grace here, where he comes in, he kind of helps reproc the shock for a little bit of time while the enemy is still shocked and gets you some extra damage out that way. Now, this is all I really have to say about this tier list here. As you can see, I would probably move these two down to tier 3 and then move her up here, and then I feel like everything else here is pretty solid. But now let's go ahead and talk about the Anomaly DPS. Alright, now hopping into Anomaly DPS here, I absolutely agree with this. I think Jane Doe the Ho's #1 spot at Anomaly DPS. I think Grace sits here, I think this sits here. Now, I want to put Burnice on this list because I do think that Burnice is probably going to be right here. So I'm going to put a little square right here because I do feel like Burnice is going to be on like the same level as this. They're both featured 5 stars. I think she goes right here. Maybe you even move Grace down a slot. Like, you maybe even move Grace down a slot here and then move this down a slot as well. Just because of the fact we have Burnice in two featured 5-star DPS now, where it kind of gaps like what these other characters are able to do, because she's going to be I feel like Grace is going to be less used whenever we have Burnice with a more effective Anomaly build-up, right? So I feel like that would maybe move them down in a sense, just because of the fact that we already have so many. I could be coping thinking that. Let me know in the comment section down below. But overall, I think this is a pretty good list. This is going to be contingent on Miss Burnice. Now, the Stunner class, I actually kind of have a cope take on as well. Personally, what I would do is I would move probably Ambi down here, right? I feel like Ambi and Colada on a completely separate level. I have a lot easier time breaking with Colada than I do Ambi. I've used all of these stunners on my teams before, and Ambi for sure is the hardest because she has to get into the combo of 1, 2, 3, and then use skill, and then she does a leg slap down after that, and you really want to be using her skill move after every 3 hits, whereas with her, you kind of just hit the skill move and then do attacks after that, and you just immediately break the enemy shield. She also gives herself a lot of impact as well, so you're just breaking through enemy shields a lot faster than Ambi, I feel like. Alright, so now it might be kind of a controversial take. Personally, I do think that Ching-E is overall better than what Lycon is. Now, I'm not going to necessarily move Lycon down right now. The reason I really moved Ambi down is because I originally thought maybe move Lycon down and then you move Kaleda down because they're both on separate levels as well. But I guess the thing here is, right, is Lycon provides a lot of support for Ice Res, and then he increases that damage multiplier that you get whenever you stun the enemy. And with us having like a super strong Ice character in the game, he pairs just really nice there. Overall, I feel like generally Ching-E is a better overall debuffer. I find myself breaking a bit faster with her than I do with him. So I would probably say overall that Ching-E is better than him, in my personal opinion. That's why I would probably keep her up there and then move him down here and then move her down here. But like I said, that would be completely contingent on the top character of the list at the time, right? Like, her being at the top of the list, him being at the top of the list, this is the best in slot team, one of the best teams in the game, and he still works for other teams pretty decently. You just kind of miss out on that Ice debuff if you're not using an Ice DPS, where you really don't lose out on much with her if you're not running like a non-Ice DPS, if you get what I mean. So I guess for the time being, I would say they stay the same, but this is what my chart would look like if we didn't have an Ice DPS in the top slot right now. Now let's go ahead and hop over to the support category here. I have a hot take here, man. I have a little bit of hot take here. I don't think Shokaku, even M6, makes it up here in tier 0.5. I feel like she is kind of on the same level as Seth. Now, the reason I say I think she's on the same level as Seth, because of how much on-field time that she has, guys. She has a lot of on-field time when using her buffs. Like, whenever you break the enemy shield, she comes in for the chain attack. She goes boom, and then do, and then you swap out. I feel like that on-field time is super, like, just long, and you waste a lot of the enemy stun meter with that, versus someone like her, right, or someone like Nicole. She goes in, pop, pop, and then you're into the next character immediately, right? That's kind of the same problem that I have here. I agree with Seth being here on the same level with her, because I feel like overall, I feel like she is a better buffer than Seth is, just because of the inherent attack buff that she gives. He works for, I guess, these teams, Anomaly teams better, right? So maybe for that. But then he also provides a shield as well, which with some of the enemies we're getting added to the game, shield is not like that frowned upon in my opinion. The extra Anomaly proficiency, so I feel like they would be on the same level. He does have the same constraints she has, I feel like, just of how much time he actually needs to be on the field, because you swap him with a chain attack on him. His chain attack does take a little bit longer, and then on top of that, just holding down that attack sometimes and like trying to get that like enhanced basic attack off, and then skill at the same time, it takes a little bit longer of being on field versus Nicole that comes in and pops, and then you swap into your Julian or whoever it might be. It's just a super quick process. Ben Bigger, yeah, I can see it. Ben Bigger stays here. I think that's fine. And also, I do agree with this as well. Lucy and Rina both being here. I do feel like overall Shokaku is a better buffer than Lucy here, whatever her name is. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But Rina being here as well, she's really only good for shock-based teams. We only have, you know, her in the game and then Anton in the game that really play off of Anomaly shock DPS. So maybe when we get another like shock DPS, she moves up in the ranking. But for right now, I think she stays absolutely where she's at. Now, if I were to rank Caesar King, I think Caesar King is 100% going to go up here. I think this is why that Shokaku moves down, because I do feel like Caesar King is going to be right here. This is what's going to kind of replace that here, because I feel like Caesar King is like Shokaku, but a shielder and better. Like Caesar King is giving an attack buff. She's also giving what a debuff on the enemy as well for a vulnerability. She's also providing shield for the team and acting as a pseudo breaker. Not to say that Miss Shokaku here can't act as a pseudo breaker, because that's how I like using her, is kind of like a pseudo breaker at times. But overall, I do feel like Caesar King is going to be the replacement here. And then, yeah, I think Nicole probably on the same level, so I don't think you move both down for Caesar King. I think Caesar King stays right here at tier 0 with Nicole. I feel like Nicole is super strong with the defense strategy she provides. But yeah, this is how my tier list would look. There's not very many changes I would make. Like I said, guys, all these two in the middle right here are contingent on like other characters in the list, right? Like if you don't have something else strong, then it moves down, right? Like if she were to move down to like right here, right, then Lycon wouldn't be as effective, because the top damage dealer for ice that he gives extra damage for is down here, if you get what I'm saying, right? Like, and then also Burnice as well. Burnice is just an extra unit added to the game, which is Anomaly, which do I think she's gonna be better than Jane Doe? Probably not, but I think she'll be on par with Jane Doe. But with what she kind of does, I do think she can move Grace down, just because of the fact that there's not really any space for Grace unless you're running double Anomaly teams, and then in that case, who do you really use, right? Anyways, that's my little rant out of the way. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Realistically, we only need this tier 3 slot for these two right here. I feel like maybe in the future they could have some better mileage, but as of right now, I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, that's going to do it for my little video today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with this tier list? And how do you think that Burnice and also Caesar King are going to turn out? I hope Drick Marketing gets dripped tonight, because I stayed up late last night and it didn't come out, so surely it'll come out tonight. Anyways, gamers, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Later, guys. Bye-bye.